Hello, everyone. It's hard to believe we're already in our fifth week of school as we had just an outstanding start to the school year. We've had sports teams doing extremely well. That brings excitement into the hallways for the students and staff as well. The community rallies behind that. And we started the year with some academic success as well. Our ACT scores were extremely good, best we've ever done this year. So that was good news. It's homecoming week. I think we play Hillsborough at the end of the week. A little bit different this week as we won't have a parade, but our students from the high school will take the drum line down to Soderstrom and escort those students from their classroom throughout the buildings and out through a tunnel of high school students and walk with those youngsters to the park. And I think what a great way to unite our kids and to have some of the older kids be role models. Looking forward to seeing that. I think the smiles on those little kids' faces will see that they'll feel pretty proud to be walking with the high school students down a few blocks over to the park. Enrollment's pretty steady. We're down just a little bit. The charter school is up. I guess it doesn't really matter if our numbers are really high because we're in a block grant. The second year of a block grant, we don't get paid for each student that we have. And we hope that that changes with the new school finance formula if we ever have one. I've been working on the school finance team that the superintendent's put together, and for about a year and a half. I think there are some other legislators or small groups that may be working on their own finance formula. We hope that one gets adopted this next school year, or the next legislative session, I guess, in January. There's a lot of talk about what's going to happen with that. So the governor tells us that the old formula is broken. I contend that the old formula just couldn't be funded, so we blame it on the formula. And nevertheless, the governor is looking for ideas for a new formula. He has asked that anyone who wants to respond can email him ideas about what to put in a new school finance formula. In fact, you could do that tomorrow if you wanted to. Log in and tell the governor what your thoughts are. The governor has asked specifically from 50 entities to provide him feedback. And in those 50 entities, there's 19 school districts he would specifically like to have information back from. And Smoky Valley is one of those districts. So as we discuss it with our board as to our position on the issue, we intend to provide feedback. We don't want it to be said that we asked and no one responded, or Smoky Valley chose not to respond, because we have specific ideas. And some of the items that we look for in a school finance formula are supportive of the guiding principles that the superintendent's put together, and that every school student in Kansas will have an equal opportunity to college and career-ready opportunities and the Rose standards, and that some students require greater support than others. And we're talking about our special education service and title students. Funding to districts must be directly related to what the costs to educate each individual student is, must meet the constitutional requirements of adequacy and equity. And briefly, we talked several times about the fact that the courts have already ruled on equity. And that is that all students across the state must have the same opportunities, so equal funding to that respect. Adequacy, and I'm going to go through another tongue twister again, but that is how much money are we getting? Is there adequate finance to support what we believe we need, what the Constitution says we need for each child? The formula should recognize local control and provide for predictability. We understand that as well, that when enrollments grow, or schools are building buildings and it costs the state more money, or there's more special ed students than anticipated, that costs the state a lot more than what they planned for. So we've provided some provisions in our formula for some predictability that we would use last year's numbers, and that's a nice compromise. But basically, we plan to respond to what the governor has asked us to do, and we hope that something comes through that. And we're going to see some changes on the legislative front. Those of you who have already voted in the primaries and have watched the results know that we're going to have a different legislature. And we're excited about some of the positive changes that we've seen. So, as you vote in November, please keep in mind that you pay attention to the judicial piece that will be on the ballot. You're going to hear a lot more about that as the election day rolls around closer. Controversial issues about the current Supreme Court justices. Some of you know them. Some of you know the Supreme Court justice who lives very close. I will include a link. You'll see a link on this email for information, because I can't tell you how to vote, but I can tell you I would like to ask you to vote. You're going to vote on retention of the current justices, and there you're going to see a big push to not retain. Some of us forget how valuable that is. I think KNEA is telling voters to vote from bottom up. In other words, as you vote for president and your legislators, don't forget to vote one way or the other to retain the justices. You may choose not to, or you may want to retain them. Keep in mind that if you choose not to retain a justice, who would appoint that judge? And that will be the governor. If there's a vacancy and people chose not to retain someone, the governor will appoint someone he selects. So that's all I have to say about that. I think that's enough of an update. I don't want to drag these on too long. Again, we've had a wonderful start. We thank you for what you do every single day for our kids. Keep up the great work and have a great school year.